Okay. I just quickly wanted to review, good afternoon. So I just quickly wanted to review every Friday and Monday. So like this coming Monday, there'll be one in the announcements. I like to post a to-do list, and it's basically just what we've covered for the week, just to help keep you on track, to make sure that you're getting your attendance done. So there's a reminder in there about attendance, getting the attendance done, and then what's due for the week. And then at this point, I'll start a running list of like what's past due, what's open. Okay. Yes, Yellow, do you have a question?
I had a question about attendance. I was gonna ask if you can send me an email of all the absences that I have, so I can put it under ¿cómo se llama the I forgot what's it called, the attendance sheet thingy.
Okay. So what you need, what you need to do for your absences is you go into Infinite Campus, and if
That's
you
the
pull up,
problem. I don't have access to it. I
okay.
forgot my password and I don't want to tell
Okay.
my mom.
Yeah, that's all right. So it probably just needs to be reset. Because
Okay.
the thing is, if it's just for this class, like you're going to need to see it for all your classes. So, once we start working independently, I'm going to introduce the topic. We'll go over the things, and I'll give you guys like 40, 50 minutes to work, right? A good chunk of the period to work. I can send you the student ticket link. So actually, if you see it there on the side, the NVLA student support ticket.
Yeah, I have that one already.
Okay. Did you fill it out?
Yes, but the thing is, like, I need specific dates.
Right. No, but what I'm trying to say is that should be able, if you fill that out, to reset your Infinite Campus password. And then once you could get into that, then you can go into Infinite Campus and it'll show you the dates for all of your classes. Does that make sense? Because you need to be able to get access to it, right? To track your attendance. So getting that password reset is going to be really important so that you can get into the account, so that you can look and see everything that you're missing. I can go back and send you a week. Oh, Cielo, can you hear me okay?
I'm sorry, yeah.
No, it's okay. So what I was saying is the reason to fill out that support ticket is to get the Infinite Campus password reset.
Oh, okay.
That
So
makes sense, so that you
thank
can
you.
go in and you can see for all your classes. Do you see what I
Alright,
mean?
thank
That's
you.
where we put it, and then that way you can see. Okay. Yeah. So get that. You can even, yeah, just select it now. And stuff like that. Get that filled out. And it takes usually a day or two, but that way you can get into your attendance and see for what class, what absence, to track that. And if there's one that you need to get cleared up. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Yes, of course. Okay. So these announcements are really helpful. Just really quick, every Monday, Friday, I'll be posting them. If you ever email me and you're like, I need to know what I'm missing, I need to know what's due, I'm going to direct you to these announcements, okay? And it will give you the list of what's past due, what's open, when they close, okay? And keeps kind of that running list as things open and close, to help you track your grade, or if you get behind, then the things that you need to do. So 2 things due for this Friday, okay? The TED Talk, the 7 deadly sins, right, of speech and getting people to listen. We did that in class on Tuesday. And then this week's topic, which is going to be EV cars. Are they worth it, or are we not ready? All right. So we're going to look at a pros con. You'll choose a side, do a little bit of research. Okay. So the announcements, that's where you're going to find those. Make sure you're checking those. And then one more time, that those lesson recording pages that I am posting. So it's right above week 7. There's last week's and this week's. So for example, this week, it's helpful because again, it tells you by day what we're working on. Okay, what's due, past due, end of the quarter coming up, gives you that deadline, small group information if you need to come and speak to me one-on-one. And then this is where I post the videos from class, like the one I'm recording right now, or if you needed to see the one. And I always label it the week, the day, so day 1 or day 2. So this would be day 2, right? And then what we did in class. So today's will say week 8, day 2, EV cars debate, and then that will go in there. Okay. So these are really helpful with if you need to go back and see instructions or just tracking due dates. Okay. Let's jump into our topic of the week. And as promised, so next week, I just published it. I got next week's done. On next Tuesday, we are going to talk about what topics you guys want to do for 4th quarter. So I'm literally making an assignment. You give you a little time to think of a couple topics. So heads up, if you've got some ones on mind, things. So we'll talk about some topics that might work, maybe topics that we love to debate, but maybe aren't school appropriate. So we'll kind of go over that a little bit. So that definitely is going to be done next week. And then we're going to look at animal testing. All right. Is that ethical or not? Or is that something we should be doing or not next week? All right. And then fourth quarter, I will build those topics off of. Good. Save it. Okay. Save it and use it then for next week. Okay. Because I'd love to hear it. And so we'll gather that up. And then going into fourth quarter, we'll try to pick, or if we have too many, then we'll vote and narrow it down. So we'll see how many votes we have to do, or if we need to debate the debate, right? If we have to debate what topics we should debate, that would be funny. One week debate the topics that we should debate, right? We'll get it narrowed down so that we have an array of topics, but a chance to thoroughly, hopefully cover something that all of you are going to be interested in and, find it interesting. Okay. So that it's not just coming to class and a bore. All right. So for this week, let's go into Canvas. All right. We're going to be on the Wednesday. Again, if you missed Tuesday, then you can go back and watch that video, or you can do this on your own, follow those steps there. All right. We're going to be on the week 8 EV cars debate. So electric cars, basically, if you're like, what are EV cars? Electric cars. Okay. Electric versus gasoline cars debate. All right. There's some obvious pros. There's some obvious cons. So maybe kind of looking a little closer at that, and maybe some things we haven't looked at or considered. Price, convenience, cost, longevity, maintenance, power grid, sourcing, where the batteries are coming from versus the engines. Like, there's more to it than just driving it on the road. And so kind of looking at the topic a little bit deeper, and probably some things you're aware of, and then maybe some things you aren't. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and open up our argument sheet. All right. So I will throw this in the chat. Go ahead and open that up. So get that open. Now, once you open it up, okay, you're going to want to save it to your drive. So again, like I've said, I would have a speech and debate folder, save it in there. I would have a folder for all of your classes. It just makes it a lot easier. Keeps you more organized. And then make it shareable. And that's where you do anyone with the link. Okay, so that when you submit it, I can open it. Okay, so I'll give you a second. Go ahead and get that open. Yep. Okay, so while you're getting that open, I have 2 videos. One's a little longer, one's a little bit shorter, kind of giving some pros, cons. So the videos I try to show in class, I try to show kind of both sides, or kind of get the topic going, get us exposed. If you're not really sure where you land, maybe you start to find something interesting, or maybe aligning with other things that you're concerned with, or something like that. Maybe you already feel very strongly on this topic, but kind of get you a little, at least minimally informed. Okay. And then we'll pick which side you're going to kind of take. And then I'll go over how you can use the sources to complete the rest, and then give you some time to work. All right. So here we go.
Is it really worth it to buy an electric car yet, or should you just buy a hybrid or gas car instead? That's what we're going to find out. Welcome to Car Help Corner, where we help you, the consumer, master the process of car buying and car ownership. It's no secret that electric cars are rapidly becoming a lot more popular every single year. Most of them have extremely long waiting periods thanks to very high demand and limited availability. And at the same time, more and more consumers are getting concerned whether it even makes sense to buy a gas car for their next vehicle purchase, given the fact that the technology might be obsolete within the next decade or 2. So the question then becomes, does it make more sense to buy an electric car? What are the pros and cons of electric car ownership? And in some cases, does it make sense to still buy a hybrid or a gas car instead? Well, make sure to stick around until the end of the video, because that's what we're going to find out. And if you enjoy and get value out of this video, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I post 2 videos a week, always straight to the point, valuable car buying advice designed to help you, the consumer. So let's start off with the many benefits or pros of electric car ownership, starting off with the most obvious one, which is never having to spend any money on gas. With gas prices climbing every year and how much it costs to fuel a gas car, it's no secret that never having to spend any money on gas is one of the main driving factors behind buying an EV. And it is true that the cost of charging an electric car versus spending money on gas can save you a lot of money in the long run. Now ultimately, the savings are going to depend on many different variables: the type of car that you buy, the cost of gas versus the cost of electricity in your area, whether you charge during the day at home or whether you charge at night during off-peak hours. There have been many studies done on this subject, and the consensus seems to be that for the average car owner, you will spend roughly $20,000 over a 10-year period on gas, which is around $2,000 a year. And by comparison, for the average owner, an electric car will cost roughly $5,000 over a 10-year period, which is roughly $500 a year. Now, of course, this is going to vary depending on all the different parameters involved, but this does give you a rough idea of what the average cost is going to be like, comparing the two different options back to back. This means that for the average person, an electric car can save you in the neighborhood of $15,000 over a 10-year period, which is a substantial amount of money to save. And not only can you save quite a bit of money on gas with an electric car, but you could also save a lot of money on the maintenance as well. Because of their incredible mechanical simplicity, you're never going to have to spend any money on things like oil changes, other fluid changes, spark plugs, belts, and other maintenance items that can be found on a gas car. Now make no mistake, electric cars are not maintenance free. You are still going to have to spend some money on maintenance for things like tires and brakes and a few other things of that nature too, but it is still going to cost you a lot less over the lifespan versus a gas car. Some repairs are going to be eliminated with a gas car. You're never going to have to worry about oil leaks or gasket leaks, for example, but some of these things are going to be replaced with brand new repairs on an electric car. And some of the repairs are no different. Like for example, if you have problems with the electronics, the touchscreens, the sensors, things of this nature are pretty much the same on both a gas car and an electric car. The average owner will spend roughly $21,000 over a 10-year period on maintenance and repairs for a gas car, versus around $13,000 for an electric car, which is a meaningful amount. And the savings with electric cars don't end with the running costs and operating costs. You can also save some money on the purchase price too, which brings us to the next benefit, the existence of government rebates and incentives. Depending on where you're located and the car that you're buying, you could save yourself thousands of dollars on the purchase price with the use of government rebates. This can be up to $7,500 in federal tax rebates in the US, or in Canada a $5,000 federal rebate, plus provincial rebates in BC and Quebec. Take this Chevy Bolt EUV that I'm driving as an example, which has a starting price of around $28,000 US, or roughly 42,000 Canadian before the rebates. But after you factor in those rebates, the price could drop to as low as $30,000, or where I'm located, $36,000, which makes it roughly the same price as a lot of comparable small SUVs. Now this Bolt is a little bit of an exception due to the below average pricing, but more on pricing a little bit later in the video. For now, let's continue with the benefits of EV ownership. Next up is the driving experience. Electric cars are just so much quieter, a lot smoother, and they produce a lot more power versus a comparable gas car. And because they make their power right away, all that power is available immediately right off the line, which makes a significant difference when it comes to passing maneuvers and merging on the highway. And not only do you get an excellent driving experience with an EV, but there's also some environmental benefits, which is appealing to a lot of buyers too. Of course, one of the main reasons why electric cars are being pushed is the fact that they do help to reduce greenhouse gas emissions over the lifetime of the vehicle when compared to a gas car. If you look at the net carbon emissions of an electric car versus a gas car over a 10-year period, it is significantly lower with the EV, especially if you live in an area where your electricity comes from renewable sources of energy. Now, of course, there are two sides to the story of EV ownership, especially when it comes to the environmental impact, which brings us to some of the downsides. Putting aside the environmental impact of EVs for just a moment, we'll come back to that one. We have to first address the most significant downside of EVs, which is the purchase price. It's no secret that the vast majority of electric cars are incredibly expensive to buy. The average price for an EV in North America is in fact around $66,000, which basically makes them unattainable for the average consumer. Now, of course, there are some exceptions to this, like this brand new Chevy Bolt that I'm driving right now, but this really is the exception and not the norm. Most EVs are incredibly expensive to buy, and they're just not a realistic option for most buyers. But the cost of EVs is of course not the only barrier. You also have another major issue, which is the driving range. Now, fortunately, this is an area where EVs have made huge improvements over the past decade. When a lot of EVs first hit the market, they were only able to travel around 100 miles or 160 kilometers at best, which made them pretty useless. But fortunately, the majority of brand new EVs on the market are able to travel at least 250 miles or 400 kilometers on one charge, and some are able to do much more than that. And having that kind of range makes them a lot more viable for daily use, especially for those who only intend to use this as their only car. But even so, the range can be an issue for many buyers, especially for those who intend to do a lot of long distance driving, or for those who live in an area where public charging is a problem, or they're not able to charge at home or at work. And if charging is an issue for you, then there's no question that you might experience a bit of range anxiety with an electric car, worried that you might get stranded somewhere without the ability to charge it. And remember, unless you have regular access to DC fast charging, charging an electric car can take a very long time, often at least 8 to 10 hours on regular level 2 power. But even if you are able to charge on a regular basis, you might still experience range anxiety, especially if you live somewhere really cold with extremely cold winters. It's no secret that electric cars lose a lot of their range in the winter time, often at least 20 to 30%, depending on how cold it is outside. Long distance highway driving can have a serious impact on the driving range as well, because electric cars are far better suited for stop and go conditions, like driving around the city. And then of course that brings us to the issue of public chargers. Now of course this is not going to be a big issue if you're able to charge your electric car at home on a regular basis. But if you do happen to rely on using public chargers, you might run into a few issues. The reality is that the public charging infrastructure is just not very well developed in a lot of cities. And even in cities where it is well developed and you find a lot of DC fast chargers, they're not always the most reliable. There's clearly a lot of work that still needs to be done when it comes to developing the EV infrastructure, and that is going to take quite a few years. And in the meantime, until that infrastructure is developed, there are some other concerns with EV ownership, like the cost of repairs, especially when it comes to the major one, which of course is the battery pack. Now admittedly, this is extremely rare, and most electric cars do come with an 8 to 10 year warranty on the battery pack to protect yourself. What's actually far more likely to occur than actual battery failure is battery degradation, which means that the battery pack will slowly degrade over time, usually around 5 to 10% over a 10-year period, ultimately depending on how you charge it. It is a normal part of EV ownership, but the one that is far more scary is experiencing actual battery failure. And if that were to happen on an EV outside warranty, you could easily be looking at a 5-figure repair bill. Which brings us to the next major concern with EVs, which is the environmental impact. Now, as mentioned earlier in the video, the net carbon footprint of an EV is significantly lower than a comparable gas car over a 10-year period, especially for those who live in an area where your electricity comes from renewable sources of energy. But if you happen to live somewhere where your electricity is coming from fossil fuels, which is the case for over 60% of Americans, then the environmental impact of an EV is not going to be as good. And then there are the environmental concerns with the manufacturing of electric vehicles themselves, especially when it comes to the battery packs. The reality is that most electric cars do have battery packs that require a lot of precious metals, including lithium, cobalt, and nickel, all of which are mined, which has its own environmental impact. And when you combine the environmental impact of mining these precious metals, manufacturing the batteries, and manufacturing the electric car itself, you often start with a major carbon deficit. But then of course, after a few years of driving an electric car with no gas, and if your electricity is coming from renewable sources of energy, the net result will be a much better environmental footprint. We're still in the very early stages of EV technology, and as the technology improves, so will its impact on the environment. But until that time comes, you do have to determine whether an EV really makes sense for your needs. Now ultimately, I believe that if you're someone where range and charging is not an issue for you, you have regular access to charging, you don't do a lot of long distance driving, and you're able to charge a lot at home, then an EV might work for your needs. And as long as you're okay with the higher purchase price and live somewhere where your electricity is coming from renewable energy, then an electric vehicle could make a lot of sense for you. Ultimately, over a 10-year period, when you consider the capital cost, the maintenance and repair costs, and the cost of electricity, an electric car will cost significantly less than a comparable gas car to own. But then again, there are plenty of consumers out there where an electric car is just realistically not going to work for their needs. This includes those who do a lot of long distance driving, don't have regular access to charging, or perhaps live where there's very harsh weather. And of course, it also includes those who have a limited budget because, as I mentioned, EVs are very expensive to buy. And even for those who can afford one, it might not make the most sense if your electricity is coming from a place that uses fossil fuels. So if any of those parameters fit your description, then an electric car might not be for you. You would be better off buying a traditional gas car, or better yet, a regular hybrid car instead. Hybrid cars are a lot more affordable to buy than EVs, with a purchase price similar to that of a regular gas car, with a fraction of the running cost thanks to being much more fuel efficient. They don't need to be charged, so you don't have to worry about any of the charging compromises or range issues, and because they don't need to be charged, you don't need to be worried if your electricity is coming from fossil fuels. A lot of consumers already understand these benefits, which is why hybrids are so incredibly popular in the market right now. One thing's for sure though, waiting a few years or even a bit longer to buy your next EV can only benefit you, because as time goes on, the technology is only going to get a lot better. So let me know what you thought of this video. Would you consider buying an electric car, or would you buy something else like a hybrid car or a gas car instead? Let me know in the comments. And if you
I feel like he's a little monotone. I think he needs to go watch the TED Talk on the 7 deadly sins. Anybody? A little monotone. No, nobody else found him monotone a little bit? Just a little bit? A little bit. So he went over tons of pros and cons, right? So I think he really broke down a little bit. So he went over tons of pros and cons and stuff that can come with this. All right. So this next one is a lot shorter. Let me see. I think it's only 5 minutes. And it's looking at EVs and like road trips. So kind of going outside of the city and how that kind of goes. And then once you pick your position, if you think that it's the right choice, it's the way that the direction the US should push ahead and fully implement, or no, we still have a ways to go, we're not ready to fully convert. We'll kind of recap some of the pros and cons, and then we can go through some of the resources as you are going to do your worksheet. All right, so here's our next one.
There is a big push to get you to switch to an electric vehicle. The government is offering incentives and more cars are available. That has led to a record pace for electric vehicle sales in 2023. So we wanted to know, what does going electric look like?
Gerald, we took 3 fully electric vehicles across 3 different road trips in North Carolina, really to test if EVs make sense as your family's primary vehicle. Well, here's what we found.
If you've driven one gas car, you've pretty much driven them all. But sit in an EV like this for the first time, and it feels like you need a training course.
I don't even know where oh, here's the okay.
Huge screens, lots of cameras, and the futuristic feel inside of an EV are obvious differences.
Punching it in now.
But even details down to letting your foot off the brake are different.
It says hold.
The engine idle in a gas car rolls you forward when you release the brake. EVs don't have an idle, so take your foot off the brake and it just sits there, kind of like a golf cart.
It stops really quickly.
Traits like those in this Rivian R1T took some getting used to, as did refueling.
So obviously when you're on a trip like this or just taking a long drive, you know that you can stop at a gas station and fill your tank up all the way if you're driving a gas vehicle. But with EVs, it's a little different. It's harder to find a charging station.
There are 3 different levels of charging speed, 1, 2, and 3. Level 3 is known as DC fast charging. And if you want to keep moving, it's really the only level fast enough, charging you up in as little as 20 minutes to 1 hour instead of several hours. Once you leave Raleigh, there are only 3 DC fast charger stations between here and Wilmington. We don't have enough range to make the round trip.
EV right there.
Yay!
so we have to stop at least once. So we tried this fast charger we found in downtown Wilmington.
But when we got here and plugged in, we got an alert on the app telling us that the city of Wilmington was actually slowing down energy speeds due to high demand, meaning we are stuck here for the next 2.5 hours.
This is super fast. This can fill like, half a tank in maybe 45 minutes or a half hour.
Charging next to us was Carl Whitney, who was headed home to Durham from Oak Island with his Chevy Bolt.
And I love it, love it, love it. And it just does everything I need. And it's clean.
He estimated his cost per mile driven is about half that of a gas car, but would like to see infrastructure improve.
It's definitely growing, but I'm seeing many more cars on the road faster than I'm seeing more charging spots.
We saw exactly what he was talking about when a third EV pulled up looking for a fast charger, but both were occupied. So this driver had to settle for a level 2 charger, feeding electricity only about 1/7 the speed of our fast charger.
There's a bit of a hiccup there in the infrastructure.
Lack of availability, inconsistent charging speeds, and chargers that are out of order are 3 big knocks against the infrastructure right now. We ended up gaining 179 miles of range after charging for an hour and 40 minutes. It only cost us $3 to park in the deck and nothing to charge.
The best news of the day is that it's actually free right now to charge in Wilmington.
That was plenty of battery life to get home, but we got thrown one more curveball at a rest stop in Duplin County.
No, we haven't seen anything unlock. Yeah, that was stressful. After the long shoot, I wanted to get home and we got locked out of the car. Maybe a little too much technology. So we had switched seats and I essentially put the keys in the center console. Our lovely photographer, Richard Adkins, left the car because we were stopping at a rest stop and we got locked out. We were locked out for 40 minutes. And Rivian said it was user error. They said that we locked the car and then got out. Richard and I did not touch the keys. So still a mystery there, but overall a really fun and eye-opening experience. Those chargers, you have to find a fast one. That's a game changer.
Yeah. Okay, so some information to kind of get us going to kind of meet some of our knowledge, 3 different kind of levels of charging. So obviously in people's homes, you're going to tend to have that 3rd level, the slow charge. But if you're plugged in for the night or for the day, right, then that's fine. Usually you find level 1 and level 2s out and about. So if you see them like at shopping centers or if you're ever doing long distance driving. And obviously the level 1s is what everyone wants, right? Because it's a lot faster. So hopefully the goal in 20 minutes or under an hour, so that you can keep on your way. So those are the highly sought after. But you have to kind of map those out ahead of time, Okay. So let's take a couple minutes. And so topic of the week is going to be EV cars, the pros and cons of them, or is the United States ready to go full force? Because like California is in the next 10 years wants to have 100% EV car sales, no more gasoline. So there are states, not every state's pushing it that aggressively, but there are some states who are really aggressively pushing this and wanting to phase out gasoline cars really relatively very quickly. So the question is your position is, do you think, yes, we need to get on board with this? We need to fast forward this and, keep this going. So what's the motive or influence for that? Or no, you think there's some red flags, we're not prepared, or there's still too many cons that need to be worked out. So EVs are the future and they will continue to grow. So nobody's debating that. But is it as problem free as some people say, or are there more problems than we're acknowledging? Like other people point out. Okay, so take a minute. So your topic, kind of pick which side of this debate you might fall on, and then we'll start looking at our sources to help back up your position. So yes, EV cars are the right choice. The US is ready, or no, EV cars still have a ways to go till the US is ready to fully convert. All right, let me know in the chat, which way are we leaning? Are we leaning yes? Are we leaning no? And then I'll go through some of the sources you can use over the next like 40 minutes or so, then to do more research on your whichever side, whichever way you might be leaning. If you're still trying to decide, so I've got a couple links that go over more pros and cons, like a long-term investment comparison, and then more pro and con comparisons. The pro side, CarMax has this thing about what's really good about it. New York Times, Energy Department. So there's some good videos and links. Con on the road trip scenario, long haul trucks. So think like majority of our food in America is by those big semis and stuff. So issues of going fully electric within that industry. And then the cobalt mine, so the major source of the batteries and some of the issues that are coming with that. So that's kind of the direction of the sourcings and stuff if you're sort of going one way or another. What are we thinking? Okay, going toward con. And again, nobody's judging. Like I said, these are just meant to, it's about kind of picking, and it's often, I find it super interesting, even just finding the sources and stuff, I become more informed. You know what I mean? Things I knew, things I didn't know, other perspectives, which is the whole point of speech and debate, right? To understand and become a little bit more versed. Okay, let's hear a few more. Which way are we leaning?
So con would be like against, like, so
con would be like, no, like we're not ready, or we're not ready to fully commit. Because right now the big push is to fully convert in the next 10 to 15 years.
like everyone driving electric cars.
Or that all new car sales have to be like California. Like I said, California is kind of charging the way of, charging the way, no pun intended, well, pun intended, that they basically want to make gasoline car sales illegal in the state in the next 10 years. So there's a big push, but then there's a lot of concerns. So there's a lot of people pushing like, let's go, no looking back. And then there's people who are saying, hey, hold up, wait. Are we ready, or are we pushing this too fast? For example, California's been experiencing rolling blackouts due to high energy usage. So if you have an EV car, I think that could be hard if they don't have a lot of the question of like the infrastructure, which some of the con sources will cover. A lot of pro sources though, again, carbon emissions, gasoline and the expense of that and cost savings. Yes, Yellow?
And they're also like kind of like time consuming. There's so much going on with them that if you ever get like pulled over on anything or your vehicle doesn't work, you're gonna have to ditch it. There's like a lot of them on the freeway that have been like ditched. Just they couldn't like charge it, or there isn't a near port.
Right. And I've heard that a few times where people, because you basically, if you are going to, one of the cons people point out is the long distance travel, right? Kind of. And so you have to map out where your charging stations would be, but sometimes you get there and it's like you said, they're not working. And so then can you make it to the next one? So definitely if you take the con side, that's one that definitely has a lot of legitimacy now. It's the lack of charging stations outside of cities. So again, it kind of depends on perspective, right? If you're looking at it long haul, or, there's definitely some cons, but then there's pro sides, like I said, value, emissions, cost, let's all go for bikes. Depends where you live. I don't know about you. Here in Las Vegas, I don't know how it takes 45 minutes driving to get across town in Vegas. So bikes are though, there are a lot of towns, a lot of Europe is like that. My friend lives in Copenhagen and everybody takes the subway or rides bikes. Right. So if you have some other form of transportation, that can be really helpful too. For like short distance though, yeah, my best friend from high school, she has dual citizenship. She lives in Copenhagen full time. Yes, Yellow, go ahead.
I'm not gonna lie, I forgot what I was gonna say, but what's it called?
EVs or?
Oh yeah, a lot of them are more expensive, are they not?
They are very expensive. Yeah. So that's one of the, when you go through like the pro con sources and stuff, like expense, I believe there's one that just does a comparison of like investment
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because like, I
So
don't understand why you're gonna spend more money to save the planet if you can just like do public transportation and just like go that way.
yeah, possibly. Sometimes it depends again, maybe on the city you live in, right? Las Vegas is terrible for public transportation, right? The bus system is really your only public transportation route and can be really, if you have to go a certain distance, right? It can be fun, but if you've got to go to and from work or you have a long distance, time isn't always on your side. When I was in grad school, I worked with a woman. I worked in a group home while I was in grad school for teaching, and she lived 20 minutes from the group home and she didn't have a driver's license. So I would take her home. So sometimes like when we would work together, so it would take her, if she to go 20 miles, it would take her on the bus 2 to 2.5 hours. And so, no, this was in Vegas. This isn't just Henderson. This was in Vegas. And so it depends on your distance, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It depends on the distance. So if your job is close to your home, then it can be really fine. But if you have a distance to go, it can take quite a bit of time. So I think it depends where you're trying to go in the valley, and stuff like that. So yeah, so it can depend on where your destination is. It can take quite a while and stuff. So, but there's some cities like Chicago. I have an aunt that lives in Chicago. Their subsystem, their train system is great. Gets you here, there, super convenient all over the city, Okay, Nellis. So like I said, maybe some areas like the bus route system works a little bit better, but it also, if you got to go outside of your area, it can take a while, or depending on the location of your job. Yeah, go ahead.
That's also not even the most like problematic thing. For me, it's like the places where you're from, the bus system is based on that. So if you are like in the more poor side, you get like the more like uglier buses, and there's a lot more people and they're more compact, so there's not that much space.
Mm-hmm.
This is also like more like on like the bus system, so I
Mm-hmm.
don't think this really has to do with anything about the cars, but it's kind of a hassle with both ends, so I'm not really sure.
Yeah, it is. This town is heavily reliant on cars. Again, bus can
Yeah, but that's
definitely.
also the thing, like with the more cars, there's not going to be enough like space for others for them to
Mhm.
expand. I don't think that made any sense.
Yes, I think that's where, like with common transportation, a lot of the cities that are really successful with it, train systems are really helpful. Subway systems can be really helpful. What's the name of that tunnel that they put in that the Teslas drive that's like under the strip and you can take it from one part to the other? You guys know what I'm talking about? They just opened it like a year or two ago, but it can help. You guys know what I'm talking about? I'm totally blanking what it's called. But there's
What
like an
area is
underground, it's on the strip, and it's like it was invested by Elon Musk and like Tesla and stuff. And it's like have you guys heard of that?
Is
And
it
it's
by the link?
yes, so it goes like from the link or like the sphere area to another part, and you can like quickly.
My dad works around the strip, so
Oh, I bet he's heard about it then.
yeah,
And
I'm
stuff.
pretty
So
familiar.
but it's like an underground electric car system where you basically, it's like you will take a little pod, right? And it takes you to the next location. But again, those ideas of like train systems within cities, which tend to be like above ground or direct, especially longer distances, or subway systems can be really well, the one on the strip, I think it's meant toward the tourism and stuff. But what I'm saying is like Vegas lacks some kind of like train or subway system or something like that where it's faster pace, less traffic. The problem with the bus is they can get stuck in the traffic, right? So if that can really slow down transportation, where like trains or subway systems, things like that can be really helpful, where you're avoiding the traffic and kind of getting from one spot to the other a little bit more efficiency. Yeah, they have they have a rail system that goes from like the Luxor up north and stuff, and then they just opened this underground one a little bit ago. All right. Well, I want to give you some time. So if you haven't started already, so yeah, so that's what I mean. That one was primarily meant for the strip, but I'm saying that concept, we need something in Vegas for everyday people to be able to use, to get from jobs or around town or the grocery store or things everywhere, Yes, Malia, go ahead.
So remember how like we were talking about like the electric cars or whatever?
Mhm.
So how would it work for people who like buy like old cars?
So, I mean, old cars are not, they're going to be around. The goal of government and their vision, okay, is to phase out gasoline cars. If you think 100 years ago when cars became a thing, horse and carriage didn't go away overnight. It took decades to transition, right? It started with very few people driving cars, right? Most people had horse and carriage.
Yeah.
Driving cars actually started as a very expensive thing, kind of like what's happening with EVs. So it's going to be the same sort of transition of EVs will grow and grow in popularity.
But like,
Helping prices come down. Gasoline cars are still going to be here, but they're going to slowly phase out new ones. And then you'll find that gasoline will become harder and harder to come by as EV replaces. Does that make sense?
yeah, but like, so they're trying to make it illegal to like,
So in California, the goal is basically in 10 years, you can't buy a brand new gasoline car in California. You'd have to go somewhere else. And the goal across the United States is to push more and more EV, less and less gasoline.
how would that work? Because some like electric cars aren't good in certain weather conditions. So
So that's something that they're talking about. So hopefully with better technology, but also in those areas, you'll probably see the transition take longer because the technology needs to improve before people are willing to give up their gasoline car, right? And
Yeah.
depend on an EV car, where somewhere that maybe has more mild weather or has lots of charging stations, then they're
Yeah.
like, I don't have to worry about that. So it definitely will be location could have a big impact on how quickly or the delay.
okay, one more question.
Yeah.
Okay, so like, how do they survive the rain? I don't know if that sounds dumb, but like,
Oh, well, I mean, they're concealed. They're sealed up in the same way that like a regular car is, right? So that water doesn't get into like your engine and the main part. I mean, so the general engineering of it is very similar to a regular car, right? And that it's going to keep rain out.
so like if there's like a flood or something, it's like,
Oh, if there's a flood, it's ruined just like a gasoline car. Yeah. So if there's like a flood, like our flash floods, like you don't want to drive it through the middle of the intersection. So in the same way, yeah, you don't, just throw a toaster in.
oh,
That's funny. So in the same way, it would have the same limitations as a gasoline car. Like you're not going to drive it through a river. You know what I mean? Or they can still get flooded, but if it's raining, like it should be fine.
Yeah, 'cause in my mind, like I'm thinking an electric car is like it's gonna electrocute you if it rains.
Right? I know. I'd be like, don't touch. Okay. So I want to give you some time. So pick your side. Okay. Either one is fine. All right. So yes, we're on the right track. We're ready to go. And stuff, or no, that you've got too many red flags. Doesn't mean you don't like EVs, but maybe you think we need to slow, or it's not as great as the sales pitch sounds. Okay. So it's up to you which side you want to take. Here's some pro con ones that list a bit of both and do kind of side by side comparison. Here's some that are just pro. Okay. And then here are some that are just con. So on your worksheet, once you pick your position and kind of initially why you're leaning that way, if you pick the pro side, then pick one or two articles from the pro con or the pro side. One reference, two reference, look through them, go through them thoroughly. You don't have to look through all the sources thoroughly, but pick a couple, okay? And then the opposite side. So if you pick pro, do your two sources on pro, or showing pros from the pro con sources. And then your counter would be con, pick one from the con list and reference that and find details that would maybe go against your argument or hurt, or vice versa. So con, look at those pro cons or the con sources, pull details from those, why you feel that, there's some disadvantages, what those might be that you would highlight if you were debating this topic. But then also look at some of the pro con or the pro sources and what sources or what references or statistics do you think might show some weakness in your argument, because again, the reason things are debatable is because they are debatable. There are pros and cons to most topics, hence why people disagree. All right. If you have questions, if you're not sure on one, and stuff, if you're done with it, then you are welcome. If you want to look at week 9 and do the couple topics list or something like that, or if you have something for another class. But the next 30 minutes, the goal is then to spend the time getting as much of this done in class. Okay. And then finally, kind of pulling together the sources that you pulled that support your side, so the pro or the con side, putting that into a paragraph. You know, here's why I believe it's a con, and referencing some sources, or here's why I believe that I am pro EV and, you know, we need to keep moving forward, and give those reasons in about 5 sentences. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Malia.
Do you have like the con ones? Oh my god, wait. It's on the screen, huh?
Yep, they're right there. So
Okay,
there's
sorry.
some that show pro con, which you could use any of those for either side. Some just pro ones and then some just con ones.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't look at the screen before I asked.
That's okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, so if you just go to that page in Canvas where the worksheet is and it gets submitted, it's all right there on the page.
All
And
right.
then-
Thank you. The articles are blocked.
Which one?
The con ones.
All three, or is there a specific one? Because
The first one and the third one.
all right, let me see what I can do.
The video's fine.
Okay. Dango Guardian.
Yeah.
You can also pull from the pro con list. There's cons in those while I try to get links that work for you guys on the con side.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, try refreshing the page if you're trying to use the con ones. I updated a couple other sources I had. Hopefully those aren't blocked. Let me know if they are.
They're good. They work.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know why it allows some and then doesn't allow others. So
Yeah, it's weird.
yeah, thanks. So we're going to do about 10 more minutes. So keep going. Let me know if you're having any issues with the sources. So again, finding 2 that support your position, which you can pull from the pro con, or if you chose con or pro, pull from those. You only need 2, so you don't have to go through every single source. Just try to give you some options. If you prefer videos, there's a video for each. And then make sure you find one that goes with the opposite side of how you feel on the topic. Because again, there's always 2 sides, right? Hence why it's a debate. That's okay. Go for it. I do. It's like all I listen to. Why is it obvious? Love or hate it? We make that the debate one week.
No, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. Because, like, you just look like the type of person who, like would listen to it.
I'll take it. I'll own it. My accent. I do say y'all sometimes. My mom, I'm actually from Oregon, but my mom, and I've been to Nashville a bunch of times, and my mom says y'all. She lives in Tennessee. She lives in Nashville.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
So.
Yeah, I think it's your hair.
My hair?
Yeah. It's definitely like the way your hair is like darker at the top and then like blonde.
Oh, the balayage thing or something?
Yeah.
I'm one of those people who always wanted to be blonde and got really dark brown hair. So, you know, as my kids say, they're like, why do you color it? I'm like, because I refuse to concede. I just refuse. So.
No.
Oh, they are my roots. This is all my roots. I am naturally dark.
No, because I actually got like what's it called? I got blonde highlights. It looks so bad now because my hair is growing and like it's just like in the middle of my head. It's so ugly.
It is when you color your hair, right? It's a commitment. It's a commitment.
That's why I'm always looking for like I don't have to keep up with it. That's my main goal. So I can
if you have darker hair and you want lighter, it's definitely it's hard to have a low maintenance. So I did the girl I go to, she does like the balayage, or I always say it wrong, you know what I'm talking about. Like, so it actually grows out pretty good, but I go in like every 4 months.
Yeah.
So it is maintenance, but not as bad as like if she did it right, you know. And she does like have you heard like the root shadow? They do it to like kind of blend it a little bit. So, but it's still maintenance, unfortunately.
The thing about my hair is like it's so thick. So like when I brush it, it's like a whole like workout. Like I gotta like brush it so bad. But anyways, like I don't know. And washing it is terrible too. So like regardless of what I do with it, it's gonna still be like high maintenance.
Yeah, when having thicker hair, definitely there's every type of hair has its own, you know, maintenance of having thicker hair. Yeah, there's definitely some work.
And plus, like, it has curls. Like I have like mildly curly hair, so
getting the right products and stuff can help. But there's a lot of maintenance that goes into it for sure.
The products are like it's so hard to find good ones.
Right, and I think when you have thicker, curlier hair, like products are really important then.
Yes, they are.
So. Oh, I love curly hair. So I'm sure you're like, it's a pain, but I think curly hair is so pretty.
No, yeah, I get a lot of compliments. It I have to like brush it a certain way now because I recently figured out like brushing with a regular brush like ruins your hair, I guess. I don't know. So I've been brushing. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have natural curls, like certain brushes, and like you're saying, the right products and not moisturizing it and not getting it too dry. Like there's a lot of maintenance. And just doing it, the right way and stuff that can help, but definitely doesn't make it maintenance free. That's for sure.
Before, like I would brush it with a regular brush and it would like come out so ugly. So like I have to I brush it with a comb now and like it's more, you can see the curls now. Before,
it helps keep them intact instead of like breaking them up.
It's become like poofy. It's so bad.
Right? Yeah, that especially if you have thick hair and it's curly, if you not using the right tools, it can be counterproductive, right? So.
Yeah, but I definitely like my hair looks so much better now. But
well, it's awesome, and the more you learn, the better you'll get at it and stuff, you know. So
Okay, I don't know how that ended up like into hair because I asked you about your music, but
No, I think I said, is it that obvious? And then I think, oh, Cielo said the hair is a giveaway or something.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
No, I don't mind and stuff. So no biggie. There's lots of good types of music out there. So, lots of good kinds of music. I don't know. Oh no, I wasn't accusing you, Cielo. So sorry. No, I don't care. I'm not ashamed to like country music. Whatever people like,
No, because like I don't know. I think about a lot of things, and like I was thinking yesterday, I was like, I wonder what she listens to. Like she looks like she listens to like Blake Shelton or something.
I look like shit. I'm at Morgan Wallen right now. He's like, I'm going to see Kane Brown in April.
I was just about to mention him, Kane Brown.
I love Kane Brown.
Okay, so this morning, my sister was watching Sesame Street, and he actually performed with Elmo, I think.
Yes,
I was like, wow.
yes. I saw that on the news and I was like, oh, Kane Brown was on it. Yes.
Yeah, it was so funny.
Yeah. So have you guys heard Beyonce's new track?
Did she drop a new album?
She dropped like 2 new songs, but they're like country songs. So she like actually she just hit the top of the country charts. And stuff. I know, which I didn't see that. Everybody was saying like at the Super Bowl, she was like hinting at new music, and then she dropped what nobody was expecting, which was, like when you think of Beyonce, you don't tend to think country music, but her songs are pretty good. I have to say.
She's more of an R&B girl.
Oh yeah, well, I loved her back in the like Destiny. I'm more of like I liked her modern stuff is good, but I loved like Destiny's Child.
Yes,
When
definitely.
I was like high school, beginning of college, like loved it, and then I got more into like country music and stuff. But it's stuff. So when somebody said she dropped country music, I was like, what? And I heard them. I was like, hey, these are pretty good, So
yeah, she has a pretty like nice voice. So
she's very talented. Obviously, she's like she can do anything.
yeah.
All right, we'll give it a couple more minutes. All right, I'm going to wrap things up. So this needs to be turned in. How are we doing? Did we get through most of this? Are we done? Is this too much to get done? Still trying to gauge how we're doing. Can I get any feedback?
Wait, what did you ask for?
So are we getting it done? Do we still have a lot to do? Are we pretty much done?
Oh yeah, I already submitted mine.
Okay, great. Jill, you're doing okay? Anybody else? How are we doing?
They're probably sleeping.
Okay, evidently. Okay. Well, make sure we're getting this done, getting this in. This is summative. So these worksheets are summative. When we do the TED Talk things and stuff, those are formative. So these, definitely having these missing, that's not going to help your grade. Getting these in, that can be a nice boost to your grade. Okay. And stuff. So if you need anything, come see me on Friday for small group. That info is on the homepage and also on the announcements page. Okay. Next week, I want to hear your ideas for topics for fourth quarter. And then we're going to look at the next topic, animal testing. This one tends to be a good one, I think. I think this will draw some interesting opinions and people kind of how we feel and stuff. I found it very interesting researching it and found out some things that I didn't know that it did impact, I would say, my opinion a little bit. So sometimes what we think we know, there is more to know. All right. Have a wonderful day. If you need anything, come see me on Friday. Otherwise, I will see you next Tuesday. Okay. Thank you so much. Bye. Thank you. Thank you, Malia.